Good morning, everyone. This is Joe. Today, I decided that I'll give you a tour of my garden, but I'd like to first introduce to you the last of my cauliflower. As you can see, it's starting to uh, develop some, or rather, I should say that the bloom of the cauliflower is actually maturing and it's starting to develop seeds. Those would have been seeds, but I'm not keeping it to save seeds from this cauliflower plant. I'm actually going to feed this into my hens, my poultry. So that's the last of my cauliflower from winter garden, and this bed here actually will be cleaned up today. My husband promised to help me get this bed cleaned up because I do have some seedlings that I'd like to plant in here. And it's still early in the season, but I have two female blooms and one male right here in this corner, one male bloom. And we are going to attempt to pollinate them by hand until, for some reason, I normally get my bees, honeybees and bumblebees much earlier than it is now. We're already in April the 3rd, and I rarely see the bumblebees and no honeybees yet. Sometimes I kind of wonder, get a little apprehended about the fact I haven't seen them, much of them, when I normally do see a lot of them by this time of year. But we're going to attempt to pollinate these zucchinis here. This is the female, and actually the other female flower is over there, which I don't know, it's not showing much, it's too sunny, but it's right there, and it's kind of wilted already. It bloomed yesterday, and since there is no male flower, I was not able to pollinate it. So today we have a male flower, and we're going to attempt to hand pollinate that one female flower on the other side, and we'll try to even pollinate the ones that's already been bloomed since yesterday and see if it's still going to work. Okay, so what I'm going to do, pardon me, I know that I'm moving around so much, but Dad, please hold this. I'm going to stick my hand in there and reach that male flower. I don't know if I'm showing it. I'm going to get this male flower here. Okay, there, as you can see. Close it down, Daddy, please. Okay, so here's what we are going to do. This is the male flower. We are going to expose that part of the flower. I hope I'm showing it. And let's not go too low because there are a lot of pollen at the bottom of the flower there, and oops, I'm sorry. Yes, thank you, Daddy. My husband reminded me to focus it because so engrossed and peeling off the petals. And as you can see, this is the part of the male flower that we are going to introduce into the female flower to pollinate it. Okay, so this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to expose this female flower here. I saw some of the pollen falling. Okay, I'm going to expose the female flower, and you probably can see in the middle of that, but I'm going to touch this part of the male flower in there, or even just shake the pollen. There's a lot of pollen in this one male flower alone, sufficient to pollinate this female flower. And I believe I've done that. Now I'm gonna try to pollinate the other one, which like I said, this has bloomed yesterday, and you can see. Let me bring you to it. So here's the one which bloomed yesterday. There's another flower about to bloom there. Oh, there's a male one. Good. So let me reach it again. Oh, Daddy, can you please reach it and try and put that? Just kind of put that in there, because I'm just trying to see if it's still, if it can still happen, because as you can see, that bloom has already wilted. It bloomed yesterday, and as you can see today, it's already wilted, and I'm trying to just do an experiment to see if we can still manage to pollinate that the next day after it wilted like it did right now. So definitely that will be an update if my attempt to pollinate that expired bloom there is successful. Okay, so okay, now in my desire to be able to salvage a lot of my squash every summer from the destruction of squash vine borer, I decided to create this raised bed covered with netting. Now here is the, oops, pardon me. Okay, so he's trying to pollinate and there, he's put the pollen in there, and let's hope it's going to work. In my desire to be able to harvest squash this summer, we did this. Okay, as you know, my main problem in this garden is squash vine borer destruction. I mean, they demolish my squash plant year after year. I rarely ever get any harvest from my zucchini anymore, ever since the squash vine borer decided that this is an area to hang around and get their food and lay their eggs. So this year I decided to cover one of my raised bed completely, as you can see, with netting. And the disadvantage with this method here is that, as you can see, the pollinators will not be able to access my squash or zucchini inside. And I am trying to find a method to catch some bees or bumblebees or some kind of pollinator and release them inside. And for the time being, what I'm doing, as you can see, what my husband and I did is we're hand pollinating every flower that we see bloom. And hopefully we don't have to do that if I manage to release some pollinators in there that will not destroy my squash plants at the same time they're pollinating it. Okay, so I was not prepared to do this part of this video. I was just gonna come here and take a picture of what's going on in my garden, and I was gonna give you a tour, which I will be doing right now. Let me show you our blueberries. As you can see, this one did not do too well, but there are some fruits in it. That one, there's one that was in that area there. My husband decided to move it out of there. I don't know, this year we have a very wet season, lots of rain and cold, and I guess this area here went under, well, it accumulated a lot of water, I guess more than what the blueberry cares to have, and it started choking the roots, and therefore obviously lack of oxygen is not good for the root system and for the plant to grow in. But what he did, okay, that one he left there, that's where it's at. What he did was transfer the other one that was on that spot right there, and move it right here. And as you can see, we already cut the part that had been damaged by too much water. And as you can see right there, those two little stumps, we cut that off. They were dead, and this branch here seems to be struggling, and we're giving it a chance to revive, hopefully. And here's another one that my husband had planted in this pot as well, which is doing very well. As you can see, lots and lots of blueberries, and as you can see, still have lots of blooms as well. And over here is my goji berries, and as you can see, I show you closer, it's starting to put out some buds as well. I have two goji berries planted in this area, and again my husband dug out the other one, and it's actually is inside my greenhouse. Now that one I'm going to keep there, and hopefully if something happened to this one, I will still have one goji berry doing well inside the greenhouse. But as you can see, it's starting to bloom. And this bed here, I have planted some of my Italian green beans along that side there of this raised bed. And over here I planted some bitter gourd or bitter melon or ampalaya, corella. And right in the middle of this bitter melon plants here, I have sweet 100 cherry tomatoes, and as you can see, it's doing very well. It's actually starting to put out some buds, as you can see right there. Where's my finger? There. This is starting to put out some buds. It will be blooming very soon. And so this is it for this bed. As you can see, this is connected to my squash or zucchini raised bed that we just help pollinate the blooms, so it's an L shape. And now I'm gonna swing this way and show you this. Remember, this was a small raised bed my husband decided to dismantle, and now we are going to prep it and get it ready for planting some okra and that little spot there. Okay, here's another raised bed, and as you can see, this raised bed is also planted with several types of eggplant, which I showed you what they are earlier in the season when I transplanted them. In this corner, which is usually shaded and cooler area, I put some daikon radish. As you can see right there, those are daikon radish, and I believe this is beet right here. There's actually a bitter melon pot right there. Well, that will be planted somewhere. I guess that's why I put it there. But so this is it for this raised bed here. Let me back up so I could show you what it looked like. So it's planted with eggplants, daikon radish, and at least one or two plants of beet. And along the side, as you can see, there are some type of green beans, supposedly. I will not give you the name of the people who sent these seeds to me, but I ordered Italian green bean seeds, And when it came, I noticed that the seeds are black. So I don't know what kind of beans this is, but I planted it anyway. But I'm learning and becoming a little more distrustful of just where to order my seeds. And once I find a good one, I will be naming them. And one of them I would actually give you right now is the Peaceful Valley Grow Organic. I have always trusted them to give me exactly the kind of seeds that I ordered. So Peaceful Valley Grow Organic is one good source of organic seeds, or whatever seeds you'd like to plant, you most likely will find it from them. I will give you a picture of that website, okay? I'm not doing that because I'm being paid or whatever, advertising for these people, but just to share some of the things that I do in my garden to my viewers and my subscribers. I'd like to pass those. If I see a good information, I'd like to pass it along. Okay, so I'm gonna give you a shot of that website. Now here is what this raised bed look right now, and I also complain. All I do was complain about my garden. But anyway, last year I did not get much harvest of my eggplant because, as I said, the squirrels devastated my eggplants in this raised bed here, and I didn't get much of it. So this year, this is what I did. Oh, this is what my husband and I did right here. This is bird netting, as you can see, and it doesn't take too. I mean, it's not too hard to just kind of wrap these bird nettings around and get it snugged somewhere so that it will hold in place, okay? You could just zip tie anything at all that would hold it in place. That just to deter or prevent the squirrels from accessing the plants inside, or in this case, eggplants inside when they start bearing fruits. Okay, so that's another measure we have to do this year to prevent damage from squirrels and other damaging bugs. Nettings such as bug nettings and nettings such as bird netting like this. Okay, let's go to my next raised bed. Here as well, as you can see, more Italian green beans right there in that corner. And right here, I have my upo or battle gourd plants doing really well in this raised bed. As you can see, they're looking healthy and well underway. Actually, they're starting to develop buds. Let me see if I'm correct. It looks like buds from here, like right here. It looks like a bud right there. And right here, this is starting to develop some buds. And normally I would pick some of the early buds off. That is because if I see that the plant is not looking too healthy or not looking too well, I do that so that the plant could concentrate its energy into growing healthier leaves and stronger vines. And in this case, I'm quite happy with the way my upo or my battle gourd is growing this year. You see how nice and green it is all the way from the base. There is no sign of struggling as far as growing. You see that from the base, you can see how green and vibrant this upo or battle gourd look. And you can see that it's almost touching the trellis. In the middle, you can see that I have some bok choy. Bok choy will be there for more or less a month from now, and they will be harvested. So this raised bed will not be crowded, okay? Here, right next to it, as you can see, here I have my beefsteak tomatoes growing on this side of this raised bed. Now, let me go outside and I will show you what's growing on the other side of this raised bed. Right here, you can see all of my plants. Thank God, I'm so happy this year that they're looking very well. Not one of them show any sign of stress from the changes of the temperature, because we are sometimes still dropping to low 50 to high 40s or upper 40s at night, and that can be very dangerous for this type of plant. So we do try to take precautions. I'll see if I have the shot of that. Earlier, when we first planted this, we had to put some kind of windbreaker just so that the change of the weather, which can devastate it because of the wind chill factor. About 3 or 4 nights ago, we have 20-mile-per-hour wind. And when I woke up, some of my plants, some of my squash actually has been twisted, and I thought it was broken, but actually it recovered and is looking very well. That's actually is the zucchini plant over there, which we just now we pollinated a little while ago. And over here, and this side of this raised bed, you can see those are straight 8 cucumber. Straight 8 cucumber growing on this side of the bed. That one there is doing very, very well. And over here, from that plant, going all the way down here, these are butternut squash, okay? So now let's go to the longest bed in my garden. Here, you will see that those greens are dandelions. I'm hoping to propagate a lot of, grow a lot of dandelions, not only for greens this year, but I want them to mature and scatter a lot of their seeds all throughout my yard. I want to grow a lot more dandelion, and this is what I did right here. Throw some dandelions on this long raised bed, and on this part of this long raised bed, I planted several types of peppers, as you can see in the middle. Now, this entire bed going all the way down to the other end of this long raised bed, pardon me, is this entire bed is planted with yam. You all know I plant white and purple yam called Dioscorea alata. They both belongs to the same family, although different in color. Now, it's all planted in here, which I noticed that not too many has germinated yet or grown yet, because we just went ahead and plant the tuber directly before we even uh, allow it to germinate as I normally do in every year. But let me show you this one. You see that purple thing there? That's ube or purple yam. That belongs to the Dioscorea alata family. That's how it would look when they start germinating. That one happens to be in my kitchen, which is a warmer area than where the rest of the tubers that are planted here were stored. They were stored in a cooler area, and therefore they were not germinating or sprouting like this one here. That was stored in my kitchen, which is of course the warmest area in the house. So now my reason for planting in the middle of this bed those peppers is so that when I treat the peppers, the same treatments that I gave it will nourish and treat the yams planted underneath as well. Okay, and the same thing for these dandelions. I will be harvesting some of these dandelions for my greens, my vegetable salad this summer, and the rest I will allow it to grow and mature and develop seeds. And during all that time, we have this entire bed planted with yam or Dioscorea alata. Okay, so this is it for my long raised bed here. Now let's go to another section of the garden. Now, this year my husband and I decided that we are going to be practical. Considering the situation we are in, I realized that being practical in our garden is really important. I mean, it's fun to grow a lot of varieties of edibles and anything that you could grow in your garden. But if you might remember, this area here is where we have our pineapple planted. Now, pineapple is fun to grow. It's really a big challenge to keep that pineapple healthy and growing and hopefully bring forth fruit. And we managed to make one develop some fruit last year. But this year, we realized how long it takes to nurture it and nourish it and maintain it. So my husband decided to pull all of them out. He gave them to our friend and he planted them in his yard. And this is what he decided to do. We are using this area to plant things that we used and we really consume on a more regular basis. So we have bitter melon planted in the side, as you can see, and it's planted in a semi-container. I said that because those pots that you see them, my husband cut the bottom of that, planted it about 4 to 6 inches deep in the ground, and so once these tomatoes planted here, these are Cherokee purple by the way, once they grow big and spread their root, they'll find themselves on the original soil underneath the pot. And as you can see, here's another way, another method that we incorporate in our garden is by planting things in containers, as you can see. And this year, I am hitting my head here. This year, I am so glad, and I'd like to share with you the fact that I was able to harvest some asparagus. Yes, I was able to harvest a little over a dozen, half a dozen of asparagus, I believe this from here. And the rest of them, I allow it to sprout again and continue on, as you can see. Like over here. This one, let me show you already the growth of it. You can see that's the asparagus. And I have 2 containers that I was able to salvage from the raised bed where we originally planted it. And they were devastated by moles, gophers, and whatever else that went under and ate the root. So I have the video of that showing you how we renew tongue twister, renew the raised bed by putting some chicken wires underneath before we refill it with soil to prevent the mole and gophers from getting into whatever is planted in there. And in this pot here we have some taro or gabi. Okay, and here's another which I have showed you before, using the netting material as well. My husband decided to create this small replica of our greenhouse. Right there, as you can see, he's in there watering more eggplant and zucchini planted in there. Okay, this one I'm not too worried. If we were to leave it open for a while and let some of the bees get in there to pollinate the eggplant, okay? But I have this little mini greenhouse here, so that if I planted some squash in here or pumpkin, whatever, next year I know that I have this to rely on, and hopefully the squash will not be devastated by squash vine borer. Okay, so that's one of the new thing in our garden right here. Okay, as you know, oops, pardon me, this is weed and that's my daylily. Well, anyway, you know that we do incorporate container gardening or container planting in our garden, and here are some of them. What you're seeing here, those grass looking things, those are lemongrass. Trying to pull out some weeds as I go along. These are lemongrass. I have them propagated, divided into all these containers here. These come from one big clump or one big bunch of lemongrass inside my hoop house raised bed. My husband and I divided them and plant each individual lemongrass stalk separately, so we'll be able to transfer them, some of these, in any areas we want to plant them in. Okay, so lemongrass on this side, and over there, let's go closer to it. You can see that I have containers here. What I'm trying to do this year is, I'm really not sure how many gallon these containers are. I would only give it an estimate of 5 gallons each pot here that you're seeing, and this one and those probably 5-gallon container contains 2 plants each, and that one there, that's 2 peppers, 2 eggplants, 2 pepper, and look at something there voluntarily grew on its own, so I don't know what that is yet. It looked like some kind of a squash or maybe even cucumber. And on this pot here, again, that's 2 eggplants. Now this will be my experiment on how much plant can I grow in this container and do well. Okay, so I'm not so worried so much about production in this area here with this container plants here, because I do have a lot of them planted somewhere else where they will have lots of room to grow. And over here, that's the same size of pot, I have sweet potato planted there. Again, I'm wondering whether that's big enough to contain these sweet potatoes here to grow a good size and decent harvest of sweet potatoes. So we'll see, another experiment. And here I have, well, we have been planting taro in a container, and we know that taro still will do well in a container this size, and this size actually is a much bigger pot than, let me see if I could push that back. You can see that that's a bigger pot than the rest of them. I don't know how many gallons those are, but probably, let me give it an estimate of 10 gallons. I don't know, but that's taro planted in there. And again, in this pot here, bigger than this one, this is sweet potato. And over there again, that's a small pot which is about 5 gallons. I got 2 eggplants, and back there are 2 peppers. So, oh, here's a big one. Now what you see here is a very big pot. Definitely I wouldn't know how many gallons that holds, but I have this forever and ever and ever. When I first started my garden, I planted some chives. We put in this pot, and it's been growing ever since. It will bloom, it will develop some seeds, reseed itself, and regrow. So we have a perpetual chives growing in this pot. Now, let's go on the other side. Have to be careful I don't trip on something here. Okay. Here are the biggest pots we have here. And these are usually the pots that Lowe's and Home Depot, when they sell big trees, these are the pots they come from. My husband were able to hold on to a few of them, and let me show you. I have 4 of them with potatoes. Over here is sweet potato, and these potatoes, let me tell you that my garden is about 2 weeks old now. Most of them are only a week or so old, but that bed there where my batugord or upo, that's been planted for almost 2 weeks now. That's why you can see that it has a nice long vine about to reach the trellis. So over here, this is probably 8 to 9 days old since we plant this sweet potato here. And over here is a regular potato. I believe this is the yellow or white potato, regular potato. And this will be the red potato right here as well. These 2 potatoes in the middle. And in this another big container here is sweet potatoes right next to my chives. So I guess my video is a little too long now, and I will cut it from here, and I will give you a next tour showing you the rest of the garden and what we have done, and maybe even give you an update of whether the zucchini that we pollinated today is successful. So I hope you enjoyed this tour that I gave you, showing you what's going on in my garden for now, and when I come back I should be able to give you some update. Thank you for watching. This is Joe and Meg of Cultivating Organic by Joe and Meg.